Welcome, Power fans. We are back to cover episode 8 of season 3 of Raising Kanan. Before we start, just to let you know, I've been covering every single Power episode this season. So make sure to like and subscribe and to turn on your notifications to get all of these recaps after each episode airs. So let's get right into it. I'm feeling pretty good. I've been saying it all season that Juliana was not going to make it to the season finale. No big surprise here. She's taken out in very dramatic fashion by Rock. Awesome scene. Congrats to both ladies involved in the acting. I want to make a special shout out to Rosal Colon, who is the actress that played Juliana. I really think she did a great job in bringing home this scene, particularly with how Juliana's been acting this entire season. Very arrogant, feeling untouchable, resenting Rock and wanting to one up her at every opportunity, feeling like she could, undermine everything that Rock was doing by getting her own operation going, even going against her family, really feeling herself. And all of that arrogance and ego went away the moment she heard Rock's voice. So I love that acting that Miss Cologne did, because as soon as she heard Rock's voice in her house, she immediately turned back into that scared, mousy character that we saw in previous seasons when she was getting abused by her husband. She immediately turned back into that when she realized that her power and protection was gone. She tried to turn it on back for a second, talking about, I can give you money. Rock wasn't trying to hear that. And we've seen Rock do some ruthless things, but this is probably her at her most ruthless, because she was waging not just physical warfare on Juliana, but also psychological. She wanted her last moments on earth to be filled with complete fear and complete physical pain, and wanting to let her know that you've been completely defeated. Gave her a little speech. She basically kind of gave her a variation of Jay-Z's lyrics on Blueprint 2, talking about even in defeat, there's a valuable lesson learned, so it evens it up for me. That's essentially what she was telling Juliana, and that I've taken losses, I've had setbacks, but I adapt, I learn, and that's why I'm a survivor, and you're not going to be one. And then the coup de grace could have ended it quickly. Like I said, she wanted to make Juliana suffer. Number one, she shot her in the leg, uh, dug her gun into the wound, had Juliana in tears. And then when she could have ended it quickly with a headshot, no, had to give her two in the chest and then one in the head for the coup de grace. So very brutal end for Juliana, but well deserved. And I want you to keep in mind something else with that scene. When Rock was leaving, she took a look back at Juliana, and it wasn't a look of triumph. It was almost a look of, I guess, acceptance, and but also a little resignation in her face too. Not complete satisfaction. And I believe that comes from the fact that, she tried to go straight. As smart as she is, as resourceful as she is, her whole family looks up to her, arguably the smartest one in the family. She couldn't make it work in the straight life. She couldn't get a legit business off the ground. And she had to go back to selling drugs, basically being trapped. This is Outcast called it, the whole term of you hear it down south, trapping. That's exactly what it is. It's a trap, and she's stuck in it, and there's no way that she can get out of it. And so it wasn't happiness in her face. And it's just beginning, because even though Juliana was out of the picture, there's still bigger, more dangerous enemies that are ahead. And that brings us to my favorite scene this episode, which is between Snaps and Pop and The Rock. Wendell Pierce is doing a great job. I really like his character, and he's a veteran of so many different shows. We all love him in The Wire. Also, he's in BMF in the early seasons. I think what I like the most with this particular scene is that if you look at the characters, they're almost living Stringer Bell's dream. Stringer's dream was to get out the game and to still have money that he can put out in the streets, but to be untouchable because all of his businesses had the appearance of being completely legit. And that's essentially what Snaps and Pop have going on. They can still put money out in the street, but they're completely insulated. They don't have to be hands-on with anything. But yet and still, they still have that ego of, you're not going to disrespect me, you're not going to come in my house. All that was activated when Rock came in there telling them what they were going to do. and they went uh kind of barred Rock up, like they were Styles and Jada, going back and forth, telling her where she stands and why she can't mess with them, and Snaps really laid it in, talking about, we were the forefathers, the ancestors, and the forebearers all at once. We built this game, and essentially telling Rock that you're not built for this type of warfare. But Rock, in true Rock fashion, she had the last word that I really enjoyed. She said essentially that, yes, you guys laid the foundation and everything, but it's not about who started it, it's about who ends it. And she gave them the final warning to stay away from my son. So this is the type of villain that we need for this show, not Goofy Ronnie. These are two characters in Snaps and Pop that are very intelligent, very cunning, and you can see them matching wits with someone like Rock. You can see the danger that she has. She has to prepare for these type of adversaries. Ronnie at this point is almost comic relief. He's still scaring people like he did with Kanan's probation officer, for lack of a better term, scared her off. But as I've been saying, he cannot carry the show as the main villain. He's too one-dimensional and too one-note. And I'm glad he's kind of getting pushed to the side, and we're seeing Snaps and Pop kind of take that main antagonist role. Now, the one thing I'm hoping, because Power always seems to make this mistake in killing people off too quickly, when you have two engaging characters like this, let them stick around a little bit. I'd like to see them go into next season and see more of the interaction they mentioned with Stefano. How far do their businesses go? How deep in the underworld are they? It seems like they have their hands in a little bit of everything. They already knew about Stefano financing, and they probably know about Rock trying to branch out with the Southeast Asians, trying to get her businesses diversified there. They probably know all of that already. So I want them to stick around and really see a battle of the minds between them and Rock. So best scene of the episode for me, great acting, and as jolly and as kind of happy-go-lucky as Snaps and Pop seem to be from every interaction we've seen with them before, now we see their dark side. And anybody that's known people who have been in the streets or people who still are in the streets, they're not like what you think. A lot of times when you see movies and all that, you think these people are just kind of cartoony cowboys, but they're not like that. Most of them are very mild mannered about their business, but when they need to flip that switch, they can do it, just like we saw with Wendell Pierce's character. So looking forward to seeing a lot more of them over these last how many episodes? Episode 8, two more episodes. So we're almost at the finale. Things are moving along very quickly. The next big thing, as far as the comedy this episode, I mentioned, Ronnie, but the big comedy came from Lou and Mama Thomas. Lou was just on one from the get-go. Out the gate, he's drunk outside the Rock's house. He's screaming about murders and everything. He almost gets robbed, pulls out the gun and falls over top of himself. So he's just a mess, and you're wondering if he's going to make it to the end of the season. But the main thing to look out with him is, who is he going to turn his gun on next? Because the last scene we have of him is sitting in that car, brooding. We don't know exactly where he's at, but he's staring at his gun. I don't think he's going to be stupid enough to try and turn his gun on Rock as much as he complains about her. But I don't think we've seen the end of Lou doing something, doing stupid things. So someone else is going to unfortunately get wrapped up in Lou's mess. I don't know if, we already did the confession route, but he's going to do something else stupid. So we have to keep an eye on him. I don't know what, but the comedy, he's pretty much taking over for that. Mama Thomas, I mean, what does she do well? She's always coming around asking for money, can't cook, just her hand out constantly. So she's a mess. I don't think Lou would kill his own mother, but anything's possible with power. But she is just, she's one of the worst mothers I've ever seen, as far as these shows go. Probably up there with Naaman's mother in The Wire. She's just terrible. Um, as far as other subplots, the big thing would be Jukebox. I'm waiting for her to beat Leisha's ass. I mean, when is that coming? number one, Leisha having goons was funny enough, but Jukebox took care of business, but she's gonna have to put hands on that girl. And then you have to wonder how that's gonna affect the dynamic of the group. Jukebox is already in a leadership role, as their manager can see. But when the girls start actually fighting and throwing hands, that might lead to the group being dissolved. And then where's Jukebox's options after that? She's already trying to get out of her army commitment. And that was a funny scene too, where the sergeant actually said to her that your country promised you freedom and has kept that promise. That is wild to hear that from a black man's mouth. Um, and I think Jukebox caught that too, the way she was looking at him. So I definitely want to see where things go with that. And also, this little teenage love that's going on with her and Crystal, very endearing to see. Crystal is so innocent, but like I mentioned before, we do know that she has a pill problem. And I'm wondering how that's going to eventually affect Jukebox. Before I was thinking Jukebox might end up getting addicted herself, but I'm kind of thinking now, after what happened with Nicole, her previous girlfriend, it's hard to see her even touching any type of drugs like that. So, but Jukebox is going to get a heart broke some type of way. So I'm just wondering how that's going to happen with her and Crystal. But so far, it's very endearing to see kind of them, still being close friends, but there's more there, and eventually it's going to spill over. Probably in the finale, I see that kind of not being resolved this season. But Jukebox is doing a great job. Actress Haley Kilgore is doing great as usual. I loved her facial expressions when she was looking at Alicia when she finally made it to the practice. She gave her one of those Cheshire cat smiles, kind of those devious looking smiles. Basically looking at her like, I'm gonna beat your ass eventually. It was one of those type of smiles and looks at her. There was no um good intent behind the way she was looking at her. So I thought that was funny. Famous is still kind of in the wind at this point. Obviously, we know the music thing is going to pick up. He's getting, or it's going to have free studio access now. So eventually, we're going to get a mixtape out there, I'm assuming. The question is he going to reveal too much? Because he's pouring out his pain and his angst in the music. And Ronnie already told him, we don't like people who talk too much. It's hard. I'm already laughing thinking about the scene of Ronnie listening to music and then hearing a new rhyme from Famous that hits a little too close for home, and then he's on the hunt for Famous. And remember, Famous has that gun too, so he's another potential person that might take out Ronnie. But my thing with Famous is I think eventually he's going to say a little too much on record. And I think, as 50 himself did that with Gelo Quran. So that will come back onto Famous, and we'll see how that happens going into the finale. The other two big reveals is obviously Detective or Captain Burke doing investigations into what happened to his daughter. He's finally found out that Howard is not on the up and up and has been undermining his daughter's legacy behind his back. So now that's going to have him probing deeper. So now, what is Howard going to do about that once he finds out that Captain Burke is snooping? Because he can't kill her. I mean, kill him like he killed his daughter. So that's going to make things really, really tight for Howard. I think he's going to get locked up or arrested by the finale. Because the next thing I see is Captain Burke going to the feds and kind of hinting at what he's found. And then that's going to put the feds' radar a little bit more on Howard if they are already having their radar on him. I'm kind of thinking that too. I think everything that they're doing with him is kind of a setup. I think the feds are already on the Howard, but the walls are really going to close in on him by the finale. Um, I think that covers everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, the other big one, Paul from the Village Voice, the reporter, being the snitch. So where is that going to go? I really think the big thing that they're trying to do with that is have him be the one thing that destroys everything that Marvin's trying to build as far as being a better person, not being impulsive, his anger problems, all that growth is going to be wiped away once he finds out that Paul has been betraying him. Somebody he's been trying to help, someone who's he's been around his kids, trying to get him off of drugs. So once he finds that out, I think from then on out, Lou is going to be on, excuse me, Marvin is going to be on demon time. And I think that's going to be a heart-wrenching thing to do because he's probably going to do it maybe with the kids in the other room or something like that, where he's going to have to lie to them, but he's going to kill Paul. It has to happen now. It's just a matter. He's probably already a little suspicious from the way Paul has been probing about the criminal sides of things that Marvin has been involved in. So that's going to be a big thing. And then we'll have two messed up brothers at that point. We'll have Lou with his drunken guilt, and then we'll have Marvin just completely distrustful of anyone. That might end up, with Marvin and Lou clashing. Marvin just being upset of what he had to do, and then lashing out at Lou saying, why are you acting like this? You're not carrying anything. You get to drink and drink your sorrows away. And then maybe they get into a little scuffle. I hope it's not something cheap where they get in a scuffle and the gun goes off and one of them gets shot or something like that. But I can see them having a more antagonistic relationship as we head into the last episode. But keep in mind on that, Paul is another one that's probably not going to make it out of this season. And his death will be the thing that removes all of Marvin's progress as far as being a better person. So, Reckonings was named this episode. Very fun. A massive improvement from episode 7. Juliana's out of here. My next people on the death list would be Paul. Don't think he's going to make it. Also see Howard getting locked up by the finale. Ronnie, I'm going to say Ronnie's going to be another one that's out of here by the end of the season. I think with Snaps and Pop taking more of an upfront role, they probably have their own goons and everybody on deck, and this is going to be a war on a bigger scale. So at that point, you don't need Ronnie too much. I guess if you're looking at the downside, Kanan was a lot more of a background character this episode, and I think this is a problem we saw it with Boardwalk Empire too, where the main character is not as interesting as everyone that's around him. It's not hurting the show at this point, but I'm wondering how they're going to push Kanan back into the forefront in these last two episodes. Because for right now, I think most of us are really just focused on Rock's storyline and how she's going to go to war with Snaps and Pop. So we have two more episodes to see how things turn out. We know things are going to turn up, and I would say we're episode 8, yeah, episode 9 and 10. I think it's going to be all out warfare. We know we love that with power. So let me know what you guys think. I'll be back to cover episode 9 next week. Make sure you like and subscribe, turn notifications on so you can get that recap or review soon after the episode airs. So thank you all for your time and looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend.